Hello and welcome to Tin Tower Talks, an occasional podcast where I, Umbreon Libris, have interesting conversations with other members of the Pokemon community. Today's episode is sort of like a part two for last week's conversation with Hoops and Hip Hop and Loxton, so we're still talking about the development of fan regions, but today's guest is someone who both helped start that trend and someone who's taking it in a unique direction. So, Mr. Buddy, welcome to Tin Tower Talks.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So, how would you describe your presence on YouTube to get us started?
So I started out doing YouTube as kind of like a occasional Pokemon YouTuber. I would do top 10s, I would do theory videos, and then over time it kind of shifted into me making What If Blank was a Pokemon Region videos, where I would take a place from the real world and kind of imagine it as a Pokemon region. And I did that for a few years, and now I have, I don't want to say ascended, because it feels like I've downgraded, but I'm working on a original creature catching game inspired by my regional videos.
All right, so let's go through that process of and how you made that transformation. How did you end up basically specializing in making fan regions for so long?
Yeah, so that's a pretty good question. I think it's just been something I've always been drawn to. And I think part of the reason for that is because Pokemon kind of has like a template almost that they're able to, or that fans are able to kind of use to make a region, right? You have a region based on somewhere in the world, and you have towns based on places in that real world location. You have 8 gym leaders based on a type. And so I kind of noticed that like they have a very rigid format, and I kind of wanted to try my hand at doing that myself. And so years and years ago, I actually did my first video. It was a collab with Birdkeeper Toby. We kind of did What If England was a region, sort of stuck to that rough template that I had noticed, and that sort of kicked us off to the races. I really, really liked doing it, and I think it was, at the time at least, what set my channel apart. So that is part of the reason why I stuck with it for so long.
Right, and those first videos, I remember that one with Birdkeeper Toby, but those first videos, they were, you know, the usual like 8 to 12 minutes long.
Right.
But then as you went along, I think the most recent one was nearly 2.5 hours or something.
Yeah, my Italy region, over 2 hours long. Oh my gosh.
How did that happen?
I have a tendency to overthink and ramble. And at least in those earlier videos, you know, as I was still a rookie to YouTube, I was like, oh, I don't want to make the video too long. I'll alienate my audience. But as I kept going, I kept getting feedback from people saying, you know, more and more, we want to see like all your ideas, Mr. Buddy. Come on, give it to us. I'm like, you don't want it. Trust me. And they're like, we do. And so I'm like, okay, all right. And just each video kind of ballooned up after that until the magnum opus of my 2.5 Italy region video.
And I liked that you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you also released like the parts of the video as individual videos as well, right? Or at least for the later ones?
Yeah, that was something I started to do after, when I realized that taking 5 months to make a video and releasing nothing in that time wasn't a good video strategy. So then I started doing parts.
I think I mostly watched the full thing because it was something that I could put on and like be playing a Pokemon game while I'm also watching it, and you know, not have to worry about what I'm gonna choose to watch next for 2 hours. That's lovely.
Exactly.
But I imagine it was nice to give people that taste of what the full thing was. Did you work on all of these ideas by yourself?
So I've had a lot of help over the years. Dare I shout out a couple people: Beth, Serene, Juno, there's been a lot of people that have kind of helped me. In the end, I hope this doesn't sound super narcissistic. In the end, it is kind of like, I'm the core idea. It's sort of my mind, for better or worse. And good God, there's a lot of bad and stupid things I've put into my regions. We'll get to that, I'm sure. But yeah, overall, they have helped me a lot, especially when my videos started getting bigger with more like production values. Like when I was starting to cast voice actors, people would help me kind of help me choose which voice was really like fitting the role, I suppose. Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, a lot of help with writing, man. Writing those scripts, 52-page scripts, is just, you have to have somebody else looking it over. So they helped a lot with that. As far as like coming up with ideas, they did help a little bit. I think that's fair to say. They did help a little bit. My process for doing the regional videos has always been a little bit weird, where I'll have an idea for something, like a creature based on folklore or an animal in a real life place, and then I'll go to an artist and I'll kind of get their input on it. So in a lot of ways, I try to have every artist I work with kind of give their own input and kind of tell me, like, what would be cool? Does this help represent the country? Is this maybe too tame? Is this maybe too outlandish? And they'll always kind of give me very good feedback and put a nice spin on creature design. So I think it's safe to say every artist I've worked with for the Pokemon designs has always had an input.
I feel like people who essentially design Pokemon or design Fanmon for a living, they are probably the best people to know how to make a Mon as a convincing Pokemon, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I design some Mons myself when I do redesigns and stuff, but I don't do it as frequently as other people do. And so I'm always looking at what other people have done, just, for inspiration, even to see, like, how did you adapt this animal or this concept into a Pokemon? Because sometimes those things are really complex.
Yeah, they can be. I think that's the beauty of like Pokemon designs, is that you can have the same creature, but two people would interpret it so differently. And I think that's part of the joy of doing like a fan region.
Yeah, and I guess we'll get back to this later on, but for a while, I guess you and Loxton and Hoops, you were all working on regions that at least overlapped in like the geographical area, or at least partially.
Right.
Because Hoops is a Pokemon Cardinal. It's more of a Canada region, but that does include Western Canada. And Loxton's Cascade region is Pacific Northwest. And from what I understand, yours is also more or less this area as well. And so,
kind of.
Yeah, and so it's been interesting to see all of the different ways that some of the same areas have been adapted, and some of the same creature concepts have also been made into Pokemon.
Right. Yeah, I generally have tried to stay away from watching too much of Loxton's videos in case, like, I accidentally, subconsciously steal one of his ideas. From what people have told me, we have had some similar ones, we've based Pokemon on similar ideas, but they come out completely differently, and I think it's so cool.
Yeah. No, I understand not wanting to be consciously or subconsciously influenced by what someone else is doing at basically the same time, right?
Yeah.
So let's start making our way towards the Orleans region, but between doing your Italy region and working on your own game, you did do some kind of alternate universe original stories. Is that right?
Oh, I did. Yes, that is the fan fiction side of me coming out. Yes.
What made you like not give up entirely, but like kind of start moving away from canon Pokemon and, trying to keep with that structure?
Right. Yeah, I think I'd always kind of been a little bit more drawn to the world, I suppose, that Pokemon has created, right? And just the amount of characters and stories that could be told there. I have nothing against like current Pokemon canon. I love it. You know what? It is what it is, and I love it. But I think there at times can be a little bit of a lack of character almost in the characters, if that makes any sense. I think they kind of like what I was talking about before. The characters feel like empty templates that you can put stuff into almost. You can kind of project what you think this character would be like. And so, in a way, I almost view that as like kind of a weird metaphor here, but almost like a dollhouse of like you have this empty dollhouse and you got all these figures and they're really cool designs. They got really cool backstories, but they don't have any emotion or character. And I always found it really, really fun and compelling to kind of go in and give those characters, actual stories and like things they do, interactions between each other. And I think that was what I kind of valued a little bit more than just turning like a country into a Pokemon region. Don't get me wrong. Love doing that. That's a lot of fun. But I think actually trying to make these stories with these characters and flesh them out, I think that's what really that's the thing that really kind of drew me into sort of the fan fiction-y side, for lack of a better term, of the Pokemon region creating trend.
And that worked as a stepping stone to go even more independent afterwards?
Yeah, I think that helped a lot in kind of like let me rewind a bit. So I was kind of, as I was sort of filling in these template characters, I'm giving Cynthia a personality because she doesn't really have one. Don't at me, people. Don't get mad at me. I'm stating facts here. She doesn't really have one besides she's the champion and she's nice. Anyways, I was also creating new characters at the same time to kind of interact with these Pokemon characters. And so I think creating new characters alongside them and making sure that they felt and looked like actual Pokemon characters, I think that was a very important stepping stone to eventually getting to like saying, hey, I want to make my own game that kind of has this sort of feeling and tone to it.
Was making your own game, was that something that came up before? Like, both Hoops and Loxton have faced this question a lot of, will this be a Pokemon game? Did that question come up for you as well when you were making the regions and later when you were making fanfiction?
All the time, dude. It is, oh my gosh, yeah, I wish I was on to talk to them, but it's like every time you make a video, there is a flood of comments being like, hey, is this going to be a game? You going to make this a fan game? Or it's even better when you see people that are like, hey, I know coding, I can turn this into a game and for free, and everyone's like, okay, let's do it, and then you never hear from that person again. Never ever.
Right.
Yeah, people love the idea, but it's I think taking the step from like, fun hypothetical video to game is such a big one, and it will beat the shit out of you. Please censor that. I'm so sorry. It's such a big step, but I don't think people realize how big of a step it actually is until you actually try to go that far.
Right. Like, I know that for a lot of or maybe even the majority of fan games, I'm not super into the fan game scene, but I know that the majority of them, they use, Pokemon Essentials or something like that, where a lot of the programming and a lot of the assets, like tree sprites or whatever, like those already exist, right?
Right, yeah.
And so that takes away some of the work. Obviously, there's still a ton of work that needs to go into it, but it's not quite on the level of doing something completely original. And of course, it means that you can't sell it, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. That's sort of why we decided we wanted to go from the ground up and like build our own assets and scripting and everything for it. As much as I would have loved to make a fan game, I guess the idea of spending so much time and effort and pouring everything I have, all this love I have of my fan fictional universe into something, and then not really getting compensation. I hope that doesn't make me sound greedy. I hate talking money, like, when you're pouring so much money of your own into these assets and projects, getting nothing back can be very, very hard. Very hard.
For sure. No, and I don't think it's greedy at all. Like that's the system we live in, right? We need to make money to survive, and if you're putting in a ton of work and not getting enough compensation for it, I mean, there's other reasons that you could be doing it. You could be doing it because you love it and you're financially secure, so you don't need to have to worry about getting that compensation, but not everyone has that luxury, so
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm one part of that equation, which is that I love it. Not the other part. And I mean, that's why I made the Italy region. That burnt me out, right? And that was what really started making me think about, like, I have poured this much time, this much money, and this much tears. There's a lot of crying involved into this video. And it's awesome, and I loved making it, and I would never not make it. I I physically and monetarily can't do another one of these because I do not earn enough from this video being up to justify it. And I don't want to go into my cardboard box again. I can't do it. Not again. So that was another one of the big factors, is that I hate talking money. It's adult crap I don't like, but passion will always trump the money for me. But sometimes you can't justify it.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that was probably the biggest reason that you decided to not use Pokemon, try to do your own thing. But were there any other reasons? Maybe there's something about the structure of Pokemon that you weren't interested in keeping around?
A very good call. Yes. So I don't know if we want to get like right into everything I'm trying to do differently within the game, or like what my gripes are with Pokemon. I
Please
can make
go
an
ahead.
I can make an entire video about that. But the, I do feel like, I mean, to be fair, Pokemon is going in a bit of a different direction recently, right? We have Legends Arceus, which seems to be changing things up. I don't know what we're talking about with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. That's probably not going to be too different, but hey, I'll throw that in there so people know I didn't forget about it. Anyways, kind of going back to the structure of Pokemon, it is very rigid in my eyes, right? I don't want to say the games have been the same over the years, because I don't think that's entirely true. There have been differences. There have been improvements, upgrades. The wild area in Gen 8 versus something like the more in-your-face story and stuff like Poképelago and Gen 7 versus like Pokemon and Me and the great online features in Gen 6, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think the kind of the core focus of the games has always remained: you're going to go on a rather linear journey to battle 8 bosses, essentially. You're going to take down an evil team, and you're going to become the champion. And I love that. I love that system. I think it's iconic in what it is. I think it's simplistic, but I think that's what makes it works really well. And for me, I kind of wanted to, at least for the gameplay side of the creature catching game I'm making, kind of expand that a little bit more and kind of do my own fun spin on it. I want to make a game where there's more of an emphasis on something like exploration. I don't feel like, and I would love to hear opinions politely in the comments about this, but I don't feel like Pokemon has really been kind of pushing their exploration aspect as much recently. The wild area notwithstanding, and I guess the DLCs for Sword and Shield, I guess those were pretty exploration based. Isle of Armor, Crown Tundra. I'm talking like core design of something like Alola or Galar or Kalos. I feel like they are very linear. There's been kind of a very, I don't want to say shallow experience, but a very limited exploration experience when it comes to the 3DS and Switch era of Pokemon games. For me, part of my love of Pokemon is the idea of like, you just get to go out into this wild world and explore. And that is something I want to capture in my game. And so that's why we're setting it on the West Coast where I grew up, exploring mountains, falling down cliffs and whatnot. And that is why you want it to feel like you're almost going on a camping trip, right? You have your tent, that's your base, then you just kind of go out from there and see the world. That's the dream. That's what I've always wanted in a Pokemon game.
Yeah, that reminds me of what it used to be, or what it used to feel like in the first couple of generations.
I don't know if that's just nostalgia talking for us or if there was something there, but I feel like there was just a difference in how it was presented.
I agree. Did you ever watch Tamahiro's review of Generation 2?
I don't think I ever did. I want to say I saw her Generation 4 one.
I feel like her Gen 2 video really captured what was different about that game, how the game expects you to play it, in how, there's a lot more of like going back and forth and having to take the long way around and having to really take your time with things. And rather than trying to just go, essentially trying to reach the Pokemon League as quickly as possible. If you do it that way, your Pokemon are going to be under-leveled. You're going to have to grind, right? But if you're taking your time with it, then just naturally you'll run into enough Pokemon that you won't have to worry about that.
It's such a cliche to say this, but like the journey, not the destination, it's a Pokemon journey. I know they always prop up like, hey, you want to be the big bad champion, but I think that like going through the game, exploring, doing side quests, that's another thing. Sorry, I promise I'm not going to go on the tangent, but like our game's going to have side quests, and Pokemon needs more side quests, man. Like, why don't they do that?
Yeah.
Oh, get it. Did it like in Ultra Sun and Moon a little bit, right? I remember they had a few side quests there, but like, where were they in Gen 8? I didn't see any of them.
Yeah,
oh, man.
And even the ones that have existed recently, they were very, very small, right? Like the ones in Generation 7, there were several that were like, hey, can you go and catch this Pokemon and show me its Pokedex entry or something like that?
Right, yeah.
But that's like a Pokemon that's available around the corner.
Yeah, not really a big side quest, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that all sounds great. That sounds like a game I want to play.
Too kind. I hope it shapes up like that. I really do.
Were you already into game development before this, or are you learning everything from scratch?
So I was a little bit into game development during high school and kind of my early college years. I did a bit of kind of like I did a lot of multimedia stuff. I learned how to video edit, do photo editing, Photoshop, all that stuff. That's kind of how I initially learned how to start making videos, even though, man, those early videos are rough. I can't watch them. They're too bad. They're so bad. But then I slowly started to learn some of the game development tools. I learned how to 3D model. I learned just a dash of like VFX stuff. I thought I would be prepared for game dev, but I am not. I'm kind of learning everything as we go. We have a very experienced programmer on our team. His name is Zer. He has essentially coded this game from the ground up. He is a coding god. If he's watching this, I hope I'm not I hope I'm not giving him too much hubris here, but he's really been kind of like the compass in a sense of the game, where if I have a question, I can go to him and ask, and he will always give me a very straight shot answer or tell me how to fix this problem. And it's been very helpful because, yeah, going into this with essentially 0.1% of game design experience has been exhausting. Exhausting.
And how much of it are you doing it yourself then? Because from what I understand it, you also have some artists that you're working with, right?
Right, yeah.
So what parts are you, besides the direction, I guess, is there anything that you're doing yourself hands-on?
Right, yeah. So I'm doing a little bit of the actual like kind of game design, level design stuff. I'm doing all of the lore and world building. So like I mean, if my Italy region video was 50 pages long, I think the lore I have for Orelon is maybe 200 pages. It's just all the characters and backstory of everything I have fleshed out with a stupid amount of detail. And no one's probably going to read any of the books in the game, but dang it, I'm writing them anyways.
Oh, I will read it. I saw the tweet
Okay.
you made the other day about making a demo that was just you go into the library and you get to read the lore. I am down for that.
I thought that'd be cool. My programmer didn't like it so much, but I thought it'd be cool. I guess doesn't show off the battling, so not super riveting. It's fun.
Sure. I don't know. Maybe you program one trainer into the library so that you can get a taste of that, but
Yeah, you steal grandma's book. You gotta fight her.
right. Someone else is trying to check it out at the same time.
Perfect. That's a quest. It's a quest.
You've been doing a lot of live streams, game development live streams, and I did check out some of the earlier ones, like several months ago. Unfortunately, watching live streams isn't something that I do too often, so I haven't really checked in recently. But is your audience participating in developing the game, or is it more of just like you're hanging out while you're doing this?
A good question. Another good question. Yes, the audience is participating in a lot of aspects. So we do have a Discord server where a lot more of like the participation and interactions happen. But essentially, I'll kind of on certain days I'll do like a very specific checklist of things we need to get done for the game. And sometimes we'll go through and make move ideas, and I'll kind of read the chat, pick out some. Sometimes we will need to name a Buddymon because, as we've established, very bad at naming. And we'll do abilities sometimes, route ideas. Maybe I'll ask for a little bit of feedback when it comes to like a character design or a building design. And so, yeah, it's been pretty fun, I think. It's almost kind of like building a game with the chat. I think in the end, I do want to have kind of full control so we don't end up with a toilet Buddymon or something crazy. But it has been really nice to kind of talk to the people who are big Pokemon fans and know what they like in the games and kind of see what their reaction is and if they're liking the direction we're going, and to really just hear what they think about something is great.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, I do consider, if I ever get tired of making Pokemon videos, making Pokemon podcasts, I would probably make a similar move and pivot to game development. So it's been great hearing your experience of how to do that.
I don't know if mine's a good template. I feel like I've done everything all wrong.
But you're doing it, and that's a big step. That's a big step.
Yeah.
Yeah. How far along do you think you are in developing the game?
Oh boy, yeah, I get this question a lot, and it's always really hard to tell. Right now, we have. I wish my programmer was here. I don't want to say anything wrong, or else he's going to yell at me. But I think right now we have almost all of the core systems, at least like the basic functionality in. You can go into a battle, you can capture a Buddymon. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the game's called Buddymon because I'm great with names. You can switch Buddymon in the party, you can pick up items, you can switch items around, and we have the dialogue system in. So essentially, I think we have almost all the core features we could do. It's just all about kind of refining them now, making sure everything it doesn't break upon playing and looks decent.
Well, and I guess if you already have 200 pages worth of lore written, then you've got a good handle on the world building.
I hope so. I'm worried it might be too boring, but I'll tie this back into the regional video creation. But that's always been something. Kind of when I'm making either this game or like a What If Blank was a Pokemon Region video. I'm very self-conscious about like the lore and the scripts and stuff I write, and there's no way to tell how they're going to be received until you get them out there. And that scares me so much. I remember oh my gosh, what was it? It might have been my Scandinavia region. I remember I got really worried I was writing a character to be too dumb, and I couldn't talk to anybody, I couldn't show anybody or get the reaction. So I just had to put it out there, and people were like, "No, he's fine." I'm like, "Okay, great." But it's terrifying, just terrifying.
Hey, but you're doing it anyway. I can respect that.
Yeah, somehow I am.
Is there a significant difference between the writing, the storytelling that you did in your region videos and the way that you're writing and telling the story or planning to tell the story in the game? Like, is there a significant difference that the medium itself makes?
Yes, there is a massive, massive difference. It is, I don't want to say it's like night and day, but with my regional videos, kind of how I wrote them and had to do them is that a lot of times, due to the constraints I had to write the script in such a way that I would often sort of tell the audience, what a character was thinking or potentially what a situation was like. I would say, this character looks like they're about to cry, and this person is sad, this person's happy. In a game, you can't really do that unless you are a game with a narrator, which we are not. So we have to kind of write the dialogue and set up the scenes and animations in a way where the player can actually determine and kind of decide what's happening in a scene for themselves. We can animate a character crying if we need to. We can give them dialogue that hints that maybe they're happy or sad. So it's a lot more show versus tell. I guess that's the best way to describe it. My regional videos were tell, maybe 5% show. This is like all show, don't tell when I can.
Are you making a story that is very linear, I guess, is similar to Pokemon? Because Pokemon is the story itself is pretty much you're going to experience the same story no matter how you play the game. Are you doing that as well, or are you doing a little bit more of like your choices affect the outcome of the game?
Yeah, we've kind of tried to put in a little bit of the choices right now in the story, and I think this is pretty final. We have it so that there's kind of two different teams you can join within the game, or two different sides. You have like a big tech company, which I've been told is very similar to Loxton's evil team, so that's embarrassing. And there's also a group of kind of like these anarchist punks. And you can choose which side you join, and that will actually kind of affect the end of the story. So you choose a side, I want to say roughly in like the first quarter of the game, and then the rest of it plays out entirely differently based on which side you choose. You'll have a different rival, you can capture different Buddymon, you go to different places potentially, and so on.
Oh, that's awesome. So it's actually kind of like version differences almost?
Precisely, yeah.
Like in particular Generation 3, where you would ally with a different team depending on which game you got. That's awesome.
Yeah, we realized we couldn't get away with doing like two versions of Buddymon. So we're like, let's just make that a choice in the game that you get to do.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I think that we've covered most of the points that I wanted to touch on. So was there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Team Buddy is the best. Hashtag Bayhives. Have to get that plug in there. I don't know if there's really anything too much. I guess one thing I can say, not that this needs to be said, but one thing I miss from doing like my regional videos is when I could say an idea for a game mechanic and I wouldn't have to really follow up on it or flesh it out like I do in the actual game. Like in a regional video, I can say, hey, you can cook malasadas that heal your Pokemon, and I don't have to do any more elaboration. In game dev, I can say that, and then I have to go in and figure out, okay, how do we want materials to work? What's the economy system like? Where do you get these materials? How much do they heal? And My gosh, I miss that simplicity. It is very nice. Very, very nice.
That's fair. Yeah, you don't have to worry about balancing a game when you're only doing one video.
Yeah, for real. I can pitch the most outlandish idea and I can get away with it. Hey, look, your Pokemon and humans are now fusing. I know that's a manga they have, but there it is. That's the mechanic. I don't know how it works, but it's in the game.
So just to finish off, I wanted to ask you if there's any of your original ideas that you would most like to see actually be used in an official Pokemon game.
Yeah, if we're talking like my regional videos, maybe it's just because I'm a sucker for like the colder environments, but I would love for Game Freak to take on a Scandinavian or a Nordic region. I think seeing how they would handle, number one, a region that's mostly snow would be really cool, but number two, kind of the verticality of Norway and Sweden, and I guess Denmark isn't super hilly, but just kind of that general area. I would love to see them take on that and throw in a few Vikings, give us a more intense Pokemon story.
Anything from Buddymon that you would like to see incorporated?
Oh man, I just
everything.
Yeah, I guess that's maybe pushing it too far. Like throw Team Buddy in there. I'm happy. We'll probably never get that far. And what would be nice though? Just give us a game where our character and I guess the player can like have like dialogue options, and they actually kind of make a difference. I don't want any of that rocket grunt on Nugget Bridge crap where it doesn't matter what you say. I want stuff where like you get two choices and each choice is going to lead to something different. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I would be happy with just you have multiple choices of dialogue and the response is actually different.
Right? Even something as simple as that would make such a difference.
Yeah. I tend to choose the option that I know the game doesn't want me to choose just to see what the dialogue is going to be like.
Right.
Oh, the dude wants me to join Team Rocket at the end of Nugget Bridge. Sure. And then he's like, don't play with me. I know you don't want to.
I know. Gosh dang. And that dialogue, that one annoys me. My gosh. Who is that guy to assume that we're joking? Why does that guy get to make that call?
Mr. Buddy, thank you for joining me. Before we go, is there anything that you want to plug?
Oh, I already did it. Team Buddy, #Bayhive, and all that stuff. We're good to go. You can check out my channel, my Twitter. You can get updates on Buddymon, the game I'm developing. I usually do Pokemon stuff too. I'm a big Pokemon fan still, you guys. I haven't quit Pokemon. A lot of people think I have. I'm there with you. Let's go for Pokemon Snap in a few days. I'm there.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It should actually be coming out the same day that this episode will.
Oh, sweet. Okay, go play it, you guys. I'm sure we're having a fun time.
I didn't play the original, so I'm looking forward to playing this one.
You are in for a treat then. Very, very unique game.
All right, thank you again for doing this, and thank you everyone for listening. You can support the show at patreon.com/UmbrionLibris. I'll see you in the next chapter.